Every big win starts long before game day. On any given Monday, we go where cameras don't. Behind the contracts, the calls, and the chaos. We'll road trip with scouts, visit iconic campuses, step inside replay booths, and walk up to the luxury suites. Real organizations, real stories, real decisions. Lace up your cleats, buckle your chin strap. Here comes our GM, Matthew Miley.
Our guest today on Any Given Monday is someone I've been chasing to get on the show for a couple months now. It's Pete Williams. Pete has worked in the National Basketball Association for over 20 years and is now the Associate Vice President for Referee and Replay Operations, which is a fancy way of saying he's an NBA hotshot. Pete previously worked in video, scouting, coaching, and consulting for the Nets. He graduated from Fairfield University, go Stags, right there, with a degree in business management. Pete, I did my research, and in your freshman year playing hoops for the Stags, you shot an amazing 67% from the arc, 2 for 3, while shooting 75% from the charity stripe, 3 for 4. Now, working at NBA, an international brand, I am so happy to welcome Pete Williams to our first show of 2026. Now, I want to talk about NBA replay and refereeing as they go hand in hand. But before that, I want to start by asking a big picture question. At its core, what problem was replay originally meant to solve for the league? And can you take us through the evolution of replay in the NBA and who it serves, coaches, teams, players, fans, the league, and explain what are the major situations that are reviewable today?
Well, first off, Matt, I just want to say thanks for having me and for that well done research on me and my background. I'd like to think that my game fits very well into NBA's standards today, a 3-and-D type of guy, but that's my own personal opinion, so we'll leave it at that. But that's a great question to start off with. I don't necessarily think that replay solved any problems. I don't think there was any problems. I think it was just advancement and trying to grow the game and use technology to kind of get calls correct, especially certain calls that really have no reason being incorrect. End of period field goal being one of them, right? Whether a player released the shot prior to the expiration of time, where in real time as a problem, we might have gotten that wrong a couple times, but technology and different video angles that we have certainly can fix that. So I think that's really how replay came into an existence. And then you add into, flagrant fouls and hostile acts, player altercations, situations where maybe throughout chaos on the court, we can't always see everything that goes on. What can technology assist us with rather than solve a problem? And I think that's kind of where we continue to view replay as it supports the game that we all love. To answer your second question, in terms of just replay and who it affects, and if you want to elaborate on that a little bit more, I can kind of get into it.
Like, who was really the target for these advancements in replay?
Yeah, I think all the stakeholders, right? I think it's players, coaches, referees, and obviously the fans, board of governors, right? NBA basketball is a business. So there's a lot of people that certain calls affect. And I think to be able to create that consistency amongst reviewable matters supports everybody and really keeps the playing field quite level, throughout the course of the regular season and certainly throughout the playoffs. So,
and when the NBA makes decisions about officiating and the use of replay technology, do league leaders think more about making sure the calls are right, or is the fan and viewing experience more important? I mean, after all, the NBA is a big and successful enterprise. What types of considerations go into these major decisions?
Yeah, certainly, I think getting the call right is first and foremost in everyone's mind, for the reasons that I just mentioned. But I mean, I think we'll get into it in a little bit. But game flow certainly affects the fans' viewership and tuning in when they tune out, so to speak. Maybe
Yeah.
last 2 minutes obviously have been a point of topic for sports radio, ESPN, everything for quite some time. So I think we're trying to balance the getting the call right with the viewership experience, and it's an algorithm, so to
Yeah.
speak, and I think it's continuing to evolve, and I think it's going to get more difficult in some ways, but easier as technology evolves too.
It's almost like you're reading directly off the papers I have in front of me with all these questions I got up and coming here in this interview. So,
Well, I mean, game flow, everyone wants to talk about game flow, right? So,
yeah.
you know, you want to
Mhm.
be able to get up and get a snack, but not get two snacks while we're reviewing a play. So,
Yeah.
I kind of get where everyone's going.
So, walk our viewers straight into life inside the NBA replay booth. How is the process structured? Who is there? What type of room and building is it? What are their work hours? What is the technology? What is the room like? Are the decisions made collectively? Are they made independent from the on court refs? Is one person in charge of the final decision? And are the people in the room assigned to specific games, or does everyone just handle replays as they come in? I mean, you don't have to. I mean, obviously, that was a lot of questions I just shot at you, but just in general, what is it like in there?
Yeah, it's intense. It's intense during certain times, and obviously other times it's down times where you're observing every game that's going on in the association. Um, to give you a big picture idea, it's a studio-like room, where every game has its own station and a 65-inch TV that's associated with that station. We have a replay operator that watches every game. They're only in charge of one game. So if there's 14 simultaneous games going on, there's 14 replay operators working.
Okay.
And then behind those individuals, that individual's basically real quick their job is to identify any potential or actual replays that are going to occur. If a fight happens, they're going to identify that in real time and communicate that. Could just be a close 2-3 that needs to be reviewed to make sure that it was scored correctly. So once those situations occur, they tag it on their computer and also communicate that situation to an NBA referee and a manager who's partnered with them.
Okay.
That individual or that pair might be watching multiple games at a time. So they'll just kind of manipulate the video, go back and forth, and come up with the answer in case we go to replay. And that's how the room works throughout. Some nights, there may only be two simultaneous games going on, so we're a little bit slower in that sense. But the room's always got to be ready for anything that could come their way. I mean, we see new occurrences or new situations weekly, so everyone's kind of on their toes. And then to answer one of your questions there is the final answer usually comes down to either the on-court officiating crew or the replay officials that are assigned to the replay center.
Hmm.
So certain triggers um, delegate who makes that final decision, and that's kind of how we roll. But a lot of collective information, a lot of collective decisions made, but ultimately an NBA referee is going to make that final call.
And are these the rooms? I know I watch a lot of football, and when there's like a close call, they might bring in the NFL, for example, like Gene Steratore, their rules analysts, and NBA has them too. Are these the rooms where those guys hang out, or is that something completely different?
No, we uh, we do employ Steve Javi, or ESPN does. He's a former NBA referee, one of the
Yes.
best to ever do it. So he's in a certain area of our room that we delegate toward NBA broadcasting. And I think that just helps him hear kind of some of the dialogue that's going on and really just create transparency and help the fans understand what's going on by
Hmm.
being directly in our room. King Fitzgerald also will do some work from inside the replay center, and there's also a delegated area for him. So really, we work together to make sure that one, most importantly, and Steve's not involved in the final decisions of replay, but
Yeah.
that the decision is made correctly, whether it be Kane or myself helping the NBA officials, and then all the information properly being portrayed or sent to the viewers at home so that everyone knows what's going on.
Hmm. And speaking on football a little bit here, the ACC network shows the college football replay officials and their deliberations. Fans can actually see and hear the officials and the replay reviews as they're happening in real time. Um, so could the NBA ever move toward that level of access, and would that build trust or risk creating controversy?
We've discussed it, and I know that the XFL and certain other football leagues have used the same idea. I will say we already incorporate that, and whereas every communication between the replay center and the on-court officials can be heard by the broadcast trucks. So they have an open audio line. Every single thing, every decision that's made, every conversation, there's transparency there where multiple broadcast trucks can hear
Hmm.
what we're saying. Now, that doesn't get sent out to you viewers at home, which is something we've discussed, but there is some transparency there. Then also there's a camera in the replay center that's always live. So any broadcast can take that at any time to show the work that's being done. And that's Commissioner Silver's reason behind it is that he wanted to make sure that there was no, mirrors, no smoke and mirrors, right? Everything that we do is front and center. We'll see. We'll see about whether the actual dialogue being
Hmm.
aired over the broadcast. You may have to bleep out some words,
Yeah.
given the way that we do our work, but I think it's a good idea.
And so now jumping back to something you said before about you want to go get a snack when there's a replay, but you don't have to get up and get another one. Fans often feel that replay hurts momentum a little bit. Is there a point where a review's taking too long and that actually hurts the product more than a borderline missed call?
I mean, you're talking from an entertainment value, right? I don't think the teams would necessarily be in favor of that, where you're favoring just the viewership at home over the result of the play. But I think you're onto something there. I think, we're very conscious of it in the replay center while we're making decisions. Ultimately, there's times where we need to stand on a call anyway, where there's not clear and conclusive evidence to overturn the call. And I think that's where a lot of this dilemma comes in, is how long do you give yourself to determine, well, you know what, we're really not going to come up with a clear answer on that. There's nothing
Hmm.
definitive, no evidence to support an overturn, and that's where that balance comes in. So it's a good question.
And does the NBA collaborate with the other big three leagues, being the NFL, MLB, NHL, or the TV network to see their views on what works and doesn't work with replay and game flow?
Yeah, we do. Most often with the other leagues, though, it has to do with kind of room setups and how the operations go, similar to what I touched on earlier, where we use replay operators that send information to referees and managers. We talk about that a lot. Our game's a lot different than a lot of these other leagues, right? We have games where there's 260 points scored, right?
Hmm.
Football, a little bit closer to us, but then you get to hockey and baseball where there's, eight, 5 to 8 goals or runs scored. So scoring changes, you really can't find a lot of similarities in terms of
Yeah.
processes, but a lot of really the way that the room works, sight lines, things that really help replays become more efficient. We definitely share ideas amongst leagues.
Okay. Now let's jump more over to the official and ref point of view. For decades, the refs have been subject to replay by the viewers on ESPN or NBC or local broadcasts. So I'm wondering if NBA referees embrace replay, what's their perspective? Acceptance or something else?
Yeah, I think embrace is a good word to use. I think any tools that help them or any of us do our jobs, you should embrace, right?
Hmm.
I think um, they're aware of how difficult their jobs are, especially certain calls. And if technology can assist, they're open to it. At the same time, um, they're professionals at the highest level in the world, right? So they want to
Hmm.
make sure that the technology and the tools being offered are correct and can really help them do their job better. So I think there's a I don't want to say wariness, but there's definitely an understanding there that the tools have to be at the highest level in order to really help them do their jobs.
So does this make the referees more aggressive or conservative, or like in football, do they make calls a certain way just to preserve replay? Like, say there's a close call on the field, it's hard to tell in real time if the fumble's out before the player's down, and they just let it play out, let the defender run on the field, score a touchdown, then they'll go back and review it and see if the play was down, but they let it play out because if they were to call it dead, then it couldn't be reviewed. So how does that change the calling style of referees, this replay?
Yeah, it's a very observant piece that you're adding there. We don't re-referee the play, and our head of officiating and our referee operations staff, we discuss that with the referees all the time. Don't re-referee the play. Don't use replay as a crutch, right? And I can't speak for football. We don't have a lot of those similar situations. A lot of times in the NBA, you have to blow your whistle in order to go to replay.
Yeah.
So I think it really doesn't touch us like that. But I can tell you it's a constant dialogue between our staff and management that we're not using replay as a crutch to re-referee a play that just occurred.
Hmm. And what are the hardest calls to make live, even for the most elite of elite officials?
Yeah, I'm not even close to being an elite referee. What they do is, I can tell you, I've been in this role for about 12 seasons, just special. What NBA referees are able to do when their skill levels.
Hmm.
So I can't speak to actually doing and making those calls on the floor, but from what they tell me, out of bounds is extremely difficult, especially when you come. Multiple defenders are in there. Proximate foul comes into play,
Yeah.
tip balls, so out of bounds. There's a lot to referee during those instances, and there's a lot of them. So,
And now let's get into the referee relationship with the league a little bit here. Approximately how many referees work on court across the entire NBA during a season?
yeah, we give or take, we have a staff of about 75.
Okay.
Those are NBA officials, and then there are some, if you want to call them enhanced referees or two-way referees, some that are in our G League, and they'll referee, I think, 4 to 6 NBA games a year for obviously educational purposes and to get them accustomed to the NBA game a little bit. But 75 or so is our current staff.
Do referees see themselves as partners with the league or independent arbiters or something else?
No, definitely partners. Again, the conversations that we have with the referees, it's teamwork and togetherness. It's not necessarily telling them how to do their job or them telling us necessarily how they're going to do their job. Definitely a
Hmm.
partnership. And I think we like to say that partnerships exist not just between the referees and the league, but also with the teams and the players and the referees, because those are the three parties that really make our league so wonderful.
And it's correct that the NBA's referees have a collective bargaining agreement, right?
Yes.
Okay. So does that agreement address replay usage, workload, or evaluation standards? And can you talk a little bit about how refs are assigned to games and how much they work?
Yeah, that part of the collective bargaining agreement and the job really doesn't touch my day to day, so I can't speak too much on that. Just like anything, there's work rules that, when you need to report to a game, how early you need to be in a city prior to your next assignment, what you need to wear, all the things that teams and players enforce. We do as a league as well, and the referees are great partners when it comes to that. So. But outside of the CBA, I mean, there's a lot of professionals that want to do the job the right way, and they'll
Yeah.
follow those work rules to make sure they're, representing themselves in the league the best way that they can.
And how are these officials evaluated after games? Do they review their own tape the way players do, or is there someone else that's watching over the officials that tell them how they did, or what's that process kind of like?
Yeah, they watch a lot of tape. And I was when I came over from the team side to the NBA, that was what I was most surprised at. I didn't realize the film study that went into their work. Um, quick bit on that is they have our technology in the replay center, all the different camera angles and the technology available to them in the referee locker rooms. So at halftime and post game, our replay operator, who I mentioned earlier, will be able to show them different angles and different plays, slow motion, zoom in,
Hmm.
zoom out via our technology while they're in the locker room. So they're watching tape during the game, they're watching tape directly after the game. And then we also have obviously some film study that goes on their own time and then with development advisors. Most of them are former referees that come off the floor and help train and educate
Hmm.
referees while they're working.
And now talking about something you talked about earlier, 2 minutes, 2 minute reports. Can you explain the 2 minute report? I mean, I'm sure you could do it better than I can do, but can you explain the 2 minute reports the NBA now releases and what was the reasoning and purpose behind that decision?
Yeah, again, similar to what I just mentioned, a lot of those reports don't touch my necessarily my job or my responsibilities. I can tell you that the NBA is quite polished, well thought out, and none of those reports are done without a reason or some substance behind it. I try to attack my job without reviews or evaluations after the fact in mind, and that's kind of how I go forward. So
Mhm.
I can't answer too many questions about the L2M, but you know, I guess as a fan, I would want to know what's your opinion is on that. Do you like it? Do you like to know what referees technically got correct or incorrect? I'm not sure.
Personally, I think it's pretty interesting to go and actually see what the league thinks, what happened. I think it's just it helps with more like clarity on certain calls. I think it's a great thing the league did.
Yeah, yep. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we went ahead and put that in. So,
Hmm.
but again, I know the NBA always likes to hear from fans, from various stakeholders on that. So I think we'll
Yeah.
continue to kind of to look at it. But it's a good question.
And personally, my freshman year in high school, I was a ref for my local like Catholic youth basketball league. Um, it was it was fun, I guess. It was just being around basketball. But how does someone actually become an NBA referee or work on the replay side? I mean, for me, I just like signed a couple papers and I was just a ref. I did like one training thing. But how does someone become an NBA referee?
Yeah, it's years of hard work. It's similar to becoming an NBA player. You know, a lot of our referees are former high school, some college referees, some pros. Right now, we have Leon Wood that played in the NBA for quite some time. We have Haywood Workman just retired a couple years ago. He was an NBA player. So a lot of them have playing experience, and then they'll gradually get to, similar to kind of what you just touched on. Like maybe they start to referee some intramural games or some lower level elementary school. They start to get the itch from there. And then we have a scout. We have scouts across the country and now soon international. But they'll get identified. They'll start to work their way into our grassroots program, and then there's certain stages of advancement in our grassroots program where they're being trained and then evaluated after they work, and the best of the best advance.
Now, what advice can you give to young people like me who are interested in a career in the business side of sports?
I would recommend being curious, not necessarily curious in a way where you're pinpointing the job that you want and attacking that job and finding people that can help you get that job. It's more being curious in terms of, how does the league work, similar to what you're doing right now. How can I get better at my job? This is what can I do to get noticed? Different things rather than I want to be a scout, help me become a scout, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's the big thing now when I came into the NBA, 2000, I pretty much walked into the Nets facility saying, I'd like a job. My college coach helped me a little bit. He was a scout for the Knicks at the time, but ultimately back then you can do that, right? And I worked for free as a post grad, right? I
Mhm.
don't know if y'all can do that right now. So I would say just be curious, keep networking, and ultimately watch tape.
Yeah.
Watch tape and don't watch tape as a fan, just watch tape to learn. And the best I've been around the NBA, they watch tape.
Now let's talk about the future of officiating and replay. The NBA is now internationally followed. Players come from many countries, many continents. I mean, the last American MVP was Harden, I think was the last one. I mean, it's been years. How does that affect officiating and the future of officiating, if at all?
I mean, officiating that style of play or
The,
officials that we find.
now that the NBA is international, does that have any effect on officiating, maybe finding officials, or is there some aspect there?
Yeah, I think we already try to partner with FIBA and some of the other European leagues a little bit in terms of similar to what you asked earlier about exchanging ideas with different leagues. Um, part of the problem there is that the rules are so different across the world in terms of basketball, right? Where
Mhm.
even in college, you have two 20-minute halves for men's basketball, which I think they might be the only league in the world that employs that. So I bring that up. My point is that you try to get professionals at the refereeing level, but not necessarily rules or other aspects that certainly pertain to only international versus the NBA. I do know that we've employed some international scouts as well to help us identify some talent. We have some NBA referees that Inte Huang, who came over. He's an Asian referee.
Mhm.
Uh, we have certain referees that are starting to get into our G League that are international. So we want to expand just like the NBA and ultimately really have the best officials in the world referee our game.
Does the NBA want more replay in the future or more better targeted replay?
Yeah, I think better targeted replay. I don't want to say less rather than more because if something comes about that can help us, uh, that involves adding more replay triggers, I think we'd be open to it. But
Mhm.
targeted replay is certainly something we talk about. I think coaches' challenges, the introduction of those have helped us target different situations without opening up a lot of different reasons for referees to use. Um, Replay. So I think we'll continue to look at that. But it's a good question. But I definitely wouldn't want to say more. I would say better
Yeah.
targeted.
And how does the league decide what becomes a point of emphasis for a season, officiating in court and in the replay booth if they want to call something more or something less? What does that kind of look like?
A lot of it's from the competition committee that we have, and it's a group of, players, referees, coaches, GMs, and I think there's a couple owners on there as well. Just always looking at the state of the game, right? I know right now one of our points of emphasis is high fives, right?
Mhm.
Shooters releasing the ball and the contact to the hand, whether that's a foul or not. Science was my worst subject by far, but from what I'm learning is physics. Once the ball is released, it doesn't matter how you follow through, the ball's not going to change once it's out of your hands. So we kind of talk about that. What are players saying? Protecting shooters. There's just a lot of different aspects of the game where we'll listen to feedback and then come up with a point of emphasis based on what the actual players and coaches and referees are telling us. High five has been a real success this year. I know we've fine-tune that a little bit in conjunction with the players and the coaches. And
Mhm.
that's basically how our points of emphasis come about.
And if you were to look forward, say the next 5, 10 years, what technological advance will most change officiating?
We're already kind of delving into automated officiating using Hawkeye technology, similar to what tennis has. Football's doing the same with their first down markers.
Yeah.
So we're partnering up with Hawkeye currently, but it's automated officiating, whereas maybe you don't necessarily, as I mentioned earlier, have to blow your whistle to go to replay. Maybe it's something, a whistle or a horn on the court that alerts you to who the ball went off of last, or perhaps whether a goaltender or a pass interference occurred without having to stop play to review something that ultimately isn't overturned. So that's what I expect to come in the next 10 years.
And then, what is one replay rule that or process that you would like to improve?
Jeez. Um, I think the reckless closeouts on flagrant fouls
Yeah.
is something that we're looking at. You know, there's a lot of them, and it's impacting the way that defenses or defenders are able to contest shots and close out on shooters. So that's just something that me personally, my basketball preference is something that I always kind of look at. And something that I would probably, if I was commissioner, I would definitely take a look at that.
And now, if you could talk to every NBA fan and tell them one thing about replay and officiating, what would it be?
Well, as far as officiating is, I think one, I'm not sure the common foul realizes that they're refereeing a defender. They're not necessarily refereeing an offensive player. They go defender to defender, right? So, I know you probably did it. Well, you probably got it right when you were doing your middle school
Mhm.
games, but you probably at least half the time were looking at the offensive player with the ball rather than refereeing the primary defender that was defending that person.
Mhm.
So that's a misconception that a lot of people at home don't know. Multitasking too is another one. You know, people think that they're just running up and down the court with a whistle and blowing fouls and violations, but there's clocks, shot clocks. Did the shot clock reset on time? Team fouls, player fouls. They're multitasking constantly throughout the game to make sure that the game runs smoothly. So that's another aspect that really struck me when I kind of came into this job. Like, this coach is talking about this play, this coach is talking about this play, and
Mhm.
meanwhile, you are trying to remember how many team fouls both teams have, and so on and so forth. So that's another aspect.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'd have to say after middle schooling, like fourth grade girls basketball, I definitely have a lot more deeper respect and appreciation for what these NBA refs and all refs do. I mean, it's really not easy at all, and it's quite difficult. So now it's time for probably my favorite part of the show is the lightning round, and we're gonna call this one "No Replay Allowed Edition," where I have about 9, 10 quick answer questions, fun quick answer questions for you to go through real quick.
oh, hit me.
So you played some college hoops. How would today's you shut down 1990s Pete Williams?
Man. I would stay at home and him in the corners and in the slot. I would stunt toward the ball and try to get offensive players to pick up the ball earlier,
Mhm.
create indecision for the ball handler, but stay at home with Pete Williams.
If NIL existed back then, who's sponsoring you?
And I'd probably say Nike.
Okay.
Um, I have closets and closets full of sneakers.
It's awesome.
I'm a bit of a shoe horse, so probably,
Yeah.
hopefully Nike. Hopefully Nike.
If you played in today's NBA, what's the one elite skill that keeps you in the league as a wily veteran?
I'd probably say shooting the ball, as I mentioned. And then I think also, um, I'd like to say veteran leadership. I think as I've been in the NBA over the years, I've taken things from Cliff Robinson to Jason Kidd to Monty McCutcheon to
Mhm.
Scott Foster to Rod Thorne to Lawrence Frank. So players, referees, coaches, and I think at this point in my career, I'd be able to impart a little bit of wisdom from all those veterans of the NBA in different roles.
Be honest here. Are you super annoying or super fun to watch NBA games with at home?
Well, my wife hits me with the remote if I try to put an NBA game on when I'm at home. But no, seriously, I'm probably pretty quiet at that
Yeah.
time. I don't like to be a know-it-all in a lot of situations. So quite often my son or his friends or my daughters may be asking me, Dad, why'd they call that, or what's this? Why is this team in zone, or so on and so forth. But I'm probably more on the quiet end.
Hmm. If you were in the league today, what's your like kind of walk up song? What would be your song that plays around the arena when they're announcing your name?
That's a good question. Um, I'd probably go something with Van Halen, maybe like Jump, just
Okay.
because it's old school.
Yeah.
I remember I tried to play that in high school to warm up before a game, and a lot of guys on my team were looking at me. They want a little bit more rap, but probably Jump and Halen.
It's awesome. For someone who lives in replay, what's the better game to work? A blowout or a nail biter that comes down to one call?
Um, Nail biter for sure. I think you don't necessarily plan on making that call, and quite often we don't have to. But good basketball, good endings. That's what we all wish for. So
What's one thing about NBA players that would surprise even diehard fans?
smart they are. I think you see the strength, you see the athleticism, but in order to play in the NBA, 95 to 98% of those players are the smartest basketball player in the world, smartest basketball player in the room, locker room, no matter
Hmm.
what. It's just the wisdom that they have
Yeah.
is just as strong as the strength and athleticism and talent, skill level.
Now, here's a real fun one here. You can't include yourself, but, or you could if you wanted to. You're in charge of an all time slam dunk contest, Final Four across all eras. Who are you picking?
My guy Vince, going with Vince Carter. So you're talking all four players or
Yeah,
just
yeah. You can pick four, and then you can say who you'd
okay.
want,
All right, I'm
who
going
you
with
think would
Vince for
win.
the win. No question. Um, but probably Neek, Dominique Wilkins.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go with Michael Jordan, Vince Carter, and Spud Webb.
That's good.
You got to have a 6 footer or less on there
Yeah.
for us folks like you and me. But
What is one phrase you hear constantly in the replay room? And mine, this it's a family podcast, so nothing too crazy.
um, one word, one phrase, one word. Um, obviously we hear the words like overturn a lot.
Hmm.
Not clear and conclusive is another um, phrase. And then, there's partnership, right? So there's not a lot of like, what's he doing or anything like that. Everyone's kind of rooting for each other or trying to get the game right. So
Yeah.
a lot of support, but probably clear and conclusive is a phrase thrown around every game, every night.
During the season, roughly how many hours a week are you working?
A lot. I'm in replay 5 to 7 nights a week. Usually from the tip, the first game to the end of the last game, and then we have meetings throughout the week. So I'd say during the season, it's probably about 65 hours. I'd say
Mm.
maybe.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, but
that is a lot.
yeah, yeah, you gotta, when you're working the NBA, no matter the role, you definitely have to decompress in the off season, and I try to do that as well.
Yeah.
But you know,
So, final question here. For a guy who works in the NBA, what are you actually doing on any given Monday?
trying to get my sleep for one. Um, Weekends are long in replay. So, Friday night, the NBA schedule is pretty heavy.
Hmm.
And then Saturday and Sunday, especially after football ends, afternoons and nights, there's games throughout. So try to get my sleep in, wake up, get a cup of coffee, go for a walk so that I can hear the birds chirp a little bit, see some sunlight.
Yeah.
And then definitely spend some time with my kids before I head back in that night. Usually I'll pick them up from school on a Monday,
Hmm.
take them to practices, get some ice cream, spend some time with them for sure. And then also, usually on Mondays, from a work standpoint, we'll have a meeting, whether it be with the crew chiefs, who are the leaders of our staff, um, a referee, all staff referee crew, all 75 referees will get on,
Yeah.
sometimes from a management perspective, and we'll kind of look at trends, different situations that are occurring that we need to make sure the referees are aware of, or we need to discuss on how we want to train the referees regarding those situations.
Yeah.
So, but definitely, I would say sleep, coffee, children, wife, and maybe a little walk for sure.
It's great stuff. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for bringing this content to the world. I think you had a great show, and appreciate you wearing that shirt too.